Hello and welcome back to my office. Thanks a lot for coming back. And today, talking to Templars. And I've actually made a list of things I need to mention today because there's a fair bit going on. As to what has been happening, first of all, I've kicked the stand, the tripod. I apologise for that. I've got some excellent strong coffee here. That's a timer to tell me that my bread has been in the oven for 10 minutes now. I've got another 8 minutes to go. It's all go in this house. Cheers. I have an excellent agent, Joanna, who came to visit last week. She's very keen and enthusiastic, and she's been working from home obviously with the coronavirus problems, but she's just recently got hold of a camper van, and so she came down to show it off. Very nice camper van, it's delightful. I wish we could get something like that. The idea of having a van loaded, ready to go, and then anytime you wanted you can just hop into it, drive somewhere and have a complete change of environment. That really is appealing. Maybe one year, you never know. Anyway, it's great to have a chat with her because we were talking about books and everything. So the first things we were talking about were the TV film potentials. No news on that yet, sadly, but it is something that's starting to interest me in terms of who we could get as the different actors. I've mentioned all that in the writing blog earlier, so I won't go through it all again, but it's a fascinating idea of trying to think who would best encapsulate the nature of someone like Baldwin de Fernsill or Simon Puttock. Both very interesting characters. So that's exciting and interesting still, although it's not moving on very far. However, all of the original Templar series are coming back into print now. Canelo have taken on all of the first, it's 13 titles, and the last Oath, King's Gold, City of Fiends, Templar's Acre, the last 4 as well. So they're very, very enthusiastic. I love the covers they're putting forward. You can see them all, they're all on the internet now. Or if you go to my website or look at Canelo and type in my name, it'll bring up all of the different covers. That's really good. It's also a bit difficult because Canelo generally take on existing authors' books. What they don't do so much is commission their own. They're very keen to, but they're not keen to pay any advances. I'm very keen to, for example, continue with the Templar series or with Pilgrim's War and have a follow-up to Pilgrim's War, because that was supposed to be a long-running series potentially in its own right. The idea was that Pilgrim's War set up the feud between the two brothers. The second book would be their arrival in Jerusalem and the mayhem after the capture of Jerusalem, the slaughter of the Muslims and all of the other things that went on. And I was going to have one brother very much on the side of the Crusaders and one brother who's actually more of a Christian soul who believes in not slaughtering everybody who doesn't agree with you, which is a strange concept in those days, but I think it's relevant. So I was looking at the idea of those two setting out their own dynasties throughout the period of the Crusader kingdom. So they would have their own children going through time through to the late 1200s. But it's a fairly expensive type of book to write because it's going to involve a lot of research and a lot of careful work to plot. So the idea of writing something like that without any advance at all is not pleasant. The advances I get from Seven House for the Blackjack series are tiny in their own right, but at least I get a contract for 2 books at a time, so I know I've got some money coming in from those, even if the amount they pay is peanuts. But what I was then talking about with my agent was, well, if I don't do a follow-up to Pilgrim's War and if I don't do anything else, what sort of books would you most like to sell? And we were talking about the different titles. She's not happy about Shanghai, although I think it's really good, but she isn't content that she could sell it easily. She knows the editors far better than I do that would be likely to commission something like that. So it's a problem. If the agent isn't fully behind it, it's difficult for her to put her professional career on the line and say, this is one title you guys really should buy. I can see that problem. So I may well put Shanghai on the internet 5 minutes before I've got to get the bread out of the oven. So it's difficult, it's tricky. On the other hand, she is quite convinced that my idea of a police procedural type of book set down in Plymouth would work. And what I'm actually looking at here is less straight police procedural, so it wouldn't be a Colin Dexter type book, because everyone now has watched so many different TV programs about the police and how they work that it would be really difficult to actually get that sort of series off the ground. I'd have to do so much additional research that it would be a real problem. So it's better to have someone looking at the police from outside. And I rather fancy the idea. I explained it to her in the simplest terms I could by saying it's sort of a Jack Reacher type of character. Ex-army, not special forces or anything clever, but he's suffered badly from PTSD. As a result, he couldn't hold a job down. He's lost his house, he's lost his wife, and now he's a vagrant on the streets. I thought, a vagrant on the streets of Plymouth, that would be an interesting perspective to look at things. So rather than having it just as a police procedural, I'll be using the police as an element, but most of the drive of the plot will be through the eyes of this vagrant. And the first scene that I've got is a car pulling up, two guys hop out, open the boot, pull out a wrapped thing, throw it on the ground, slam the doors and drive off. And the vagrant sees this because he's trying to get some sleep behind a dumpster or something. And he sees this, wonders what it is they've chucked, so he goes and have a look, and it's a young woman who's obviously been raped or abused in some way. I thought that would be a good start point. The vagrant then obviously decides he's got to get out of there, and he bolts, and the first thing he'd do would be to get from the city to somewhere where he felt comfortable. Being an ex-soldier, he always felt comfortable on Dartmoor, so he runs up to Dartmoor and finds an old tin working where he can hang out for a bit. So that's really quite appealing. On the other hand, I've had an awful lot of people who have also asked me for follow-ups to Act of Vengeance. Because Act of Vengeance really was a very strong concept, and the idea behind that was again to have the beginning of a series, and I wanted to drive the series based on the Scavengers, which is why obviously the top tier is called the Scavengers, because I don't know actually. I guess the top tier should have been the Templars, shouldn't it? Because there's 32 titles in the Templars after all. And a very good set of titles they are. I keep getting people contacting me even now saying they've only just come across the series and they're really keen on it and how happy they are. Which is lovely. But I need to see if I can generate more income, sadly. Hey-ho. So, that's the situation I'm in right now. I still have to write the next Jack Blackjack. Number 5 is ready to be published, I think, in a month's time. So the next thing to do is book 6, which I have a rough outline for. I think Jack's not going to be in London. He's going to run and be well outside London. I think that I've then got to write down 2 synopses for 2 more Jack Blackjacks so that Seven House can buy the series. And when that's done, as soon as I've finished that Jack Blackjack, I'm going to have to hurry back to whatever the book is going to be that I've got to write. Still need to speak to the agent again actually about Shanghai and see if there's any way I can change the book and make her happier with it. I'm not sure that's going to work. She's expressed her view already. I'm going to turn this off now before it starts bleeping at me again. So there I think, in a nutshell, is roughly where I am this month. I would love to be able to give you a complete breakdown of all the exciting places I've been to and what I've done, where I've been going, signing books and so on. But of course, like everybody else, I've basically been stuck in these four walls and trying to work out how to make some money by writing. Very strange times, aren't they? But hopefully all of you are keeping well, hale and hearty and healthy. I started trying to find time to do some more painting, and I've stuck a couple of paintings. Actually, I might stick the latest ones up on Patreon, because not everybody who's on Patreon sees my Twitter account and so on. I'll do that for tomorrow, for Sunday. But it's a really good way to relax, I find. Just making the odd painting, whatever it might be, a view, a house, a beach scene, anything like that. I find it really relaxing. It just takes me away from the normal run-of-the-mill work of sitting at a computer and typing. These videos, incidentally, I'm finding very useful and very interesting. I've always rather liked the idea of making my own videos, but now I'm learning a new editing suite, which is called DaVinci 16. And it's been fantastic. It really is very, very powerful. And hopefully it looks a great deal more professional than my old attempts used to. But it does all take time. And time is not something I am very rich for. Rich for? It's not something I have a lot of anyway, put it like that. I should right now be watching a cricket match with my wife. Instead, I'm still here baking some bread and recording videos and typing complaints to Amazon, because for some reason, you're probably aware, but people, authors and other creatives will have an Amazon Associates account, and then if you go onto that person's website and click through to Amazon, anything you buy, the associate will get a tiny percentage of. So if you go on to michaeljex.co.uk, click the link to the Vintner Trilogy and buy one of those books, I should in theory get, I think it's 2 or 3 pennies per sale. But I haven't received anything from Amazon in about 3 years now, and this is getting to be a bit alarming. So I've contacted them and I'm still waiting for a reply as to what exactly is going on with that. Of course, it could just be that no one is actually clicking through on the links from my website. It's perfectly feasible. Unlikely though, I think. So that's the action on me for the next month, is make sure Amazon reply, keep up with these videos, do some more painting, write a novel and plan out what the next novel's going to be, and make more bread. Oh boy. Thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for your patronage. I do hope this is worthwhile. Don't forget, if you've got any comments about things you actually would like to hear about that I'm not talking about, just send me a message on Patreon and I'll be delighted to help. For now, that's the lot, but hopefully I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.